We've gone to Glasgow today to meet the Wise Group. They're a social enterprise. We're going to find out how they use the cloud to make themselves more efficient, but also how they're going to cope with the government cuts that are causing a lot of social enterprises to struggle at the moment. So, Wise Group, you're a social enterprise. What does that mean?
Social enterprise is an organisation which is not for profit. So everything we do has got a social goal, and basically we try and help people help themselves.
What sort of people are you helping?
We help people who are unemployed and who are just out of prison, basically people who are vulnerable and who we can help try and get into a job and trying to help themselves and their families.
So what sort of things do you do for them? Do you provide training for them? Do you give them something to do? How does it work?
We help them make themselves ready for the employment market, and that includes things like training, CVs, interview skills, do they need a suit even? All the associated things that many people would take for granted, but which people who have been disenfranchised, if you like, don't know how to do and can't do. So we help them in all aspects to try and help them move on with their lives.
And about how many people are you helping here? How big is the Wise Group?
The Wise Group's about 500 people. We operate in the northeast of England and in Scotland. And last year we managed to get 3,000 people into employment who were otherwise unemployed. Since we were founded 25 years ago, or just over 25 years ago, we've helped over 30,000 people into employment.
Now, I can see that this is quite a big job, but I can't see how you need technology for this.
Well, technology helps us be more agile in doing this. We've got to have systems that monitor how we do it, and increasingly as well we need people to engage with us electronically if that's what they want to do. So technology helps us be more efficient for that, and when we bid for contracts it allows us to bid against global companies and win.
Is it a competitive business what you do?
It's a very competitive business. Some of the government contracts that we bid for, as I said, are bid for by global companies, and we've got to bid against them and show that our ICT can stand up against their massive resources.
Okay, so no offence, but there's a lot of not-for-profit companies that we deal with, and when you look at their IT, it's not all that. It's a little bit rubbish.
Yeah.
I'm guessing yours isn't rubbish, or else we wouldn't be here coming to see you. But was it ever that way? Did you, were you struggling ever?
Yeah, when I started just over 2.5 years ago, there had been an underinvestment in ICT, and it was pretty rubbish and needed to be revamped, if you like. So my task since then has been to do that, and I've done it entirely within the scope of the Microsoft technology stack. But there was disparate systems which had grown up haphazardly, which didn't talk to each other and which didn't allow for data sharing. So all of that had to be got rid of so that we could integrate things and run the business properly.
But this is a problem, isn't it? When you're going to your bosses and saying we've got to invest in technology to get these systems right, there's always something else that you need to invest the funding that you got in, isn't it?
Yeah, although when I joined there was an appetite to make those changes. We knew that we were going to be bidding for much larger contracts, and we knew that we had to be much more agile and we had to be ahead of the game in terms of ICT. So it was within that context that we started.
Right, so you went for a totally Microsoft solution to these problems. Why did you do that?
Well, Microsoft for me didn't require any thought, because everyone was already using Microsoft in their desktop environment. Things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, even Outlook. Those were already in place, and so to leverage all that with a decent back end that was integrated with all the back end technologies meant that people could use all that power but in their desktop environment. So it removed an entire barrier of training and people getting used to using a new system. So Microsoft for me was the technology that would deliver that.
And you went cloud as well?
Yeah, we went with the cloud because no matter how much we invested in IT, we could never match IT investments of our large competitors, or indeed that Microsoft puts in its data centres. So it was my decision to get as much as possible into the cloud, and I think we were one of the first European...
I was going to say, a couple of years back, you're going into the cloud, then there's a lot of people who say you're crazy.
Well, we had to move very fast. We became the first European, one of the first European companies to go with their first cloud offering, BPOS as it was called then. And a few months after that we bid for a very large contract against global players and won. And I'm convinced that having moved to the cloud allowed us to display that we could quickly respond and quickly staff up to manage those contracts, and was a significant contributory factor to winning the contract.
So what's in BPOS then, which is what you're using?
What we went live with just over 2 years ago was principally it was the email to start with. We migrated from Lotus Notes over one weekend, and that went smoothly. We began using SharePoint as it stood in BPOS, and we also began using Live Meeting, and all of that hosted in the cloud.
And so you pay for it on a per seat, per month basis. Does that make it cheaper?
Yeah, using it on a per month, per seat basis makes it a lot cheaper. I calculated between 30 and 40% cheaper, but it also moves the cost to operational expenditure rather than capital expenditure, which means it can be adjusted very easily. If we increase in size, the bill goes up. If we decrease in size, the bill goes down.
Okay, well thanks very much, Al. Let's go and have a look and see what you do at the Wise Group.
Sure, let's go.
Well, Al, the thing we haven't mentioned yet is the effect the government cuts are having on you. Are they? Is that going to be serious for you?
Yeah, well, the government cuts have meant that we lost a contract recently, which means that we have to scale back a bit. Now, with the cloud, it means it's really easy because they call it an elastic service, and we can deprovision capacity and we can deprovision people almost instantly. So that allows us to respond to that, and at the same time we're bidding for other contracts and fully confident that we'll win those. When we do, we can scale up again almost instantly using the cloud.
Well, I guess you can't scale up and down if you've got a room full of servers.
No, you can't. Those become fixed costs, stuff that you can't move, you can't easily change. So with the cloud, it means you're using Microsoft's capacity, which means you can scale up and down almost instantly, which is really good for us.
Now, I hear you saying that you're going to stick a jacuzzi in your server room.
Absolutely, that's the ultimate goal. It's to get rid of everything that we have so that all the capacities with Microsoft, and we can use the server room for something more useful like a jacuzzi.
Okay, well, let's go and see where you're going to put it, eh?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, Al, so here we are in your server room, which is full of junk. These servers are good for sitting on, not much else now.
Absolutely. I mean, we want to get rid of all of this as much as we can. Well, a lot of this is obsolete. Some of the stuff's 7 or 8 years old. But until recently was running critical systems. We're trying to put all of that into the cloud so that we don't rely on this expensive stuff anymore.
You got a monster one over here. This is just furniture now.
Absolutely, that's going out the door this week for recycling, of course. That's a £250,000 server from 7 or 8 years ago from IBM, with half the capacity of a half-decent laptop.
When you're finished, how much is going to be left here?
Well, I think we're going to have this cabinet at the end, which is all the patching for our Wi-Fi and network. The rest of it will be gone.
Now, there's a decent number of people who are still, the first thing they do when they get a grant in your sector is they invest in a lot of fixed equipment, don't they? Are you saying they're going the wrong way?
Well, we had a conversation with someone just recently who had got a grant of a six-figure sum to service 6 or 7 people in his organisation, and he was wondering what servers to buy, and we told him about cloud, and we said we could provision him for less than £5 per user a month, and he wouldn't have to bother with all of that, and he was absolutely astonished. But we're actually moving on to do it now. So
you're selling cloud services to other agencies now?
Absolutely. We call it eating our own dog food. We've done this in the Wise Group, and now we're trying to assist other people in our sector to do the same.
So are you making a profit out of this? Is this a good business for you now?
We're basically doing it to help people. We're making a few pennies over whatever we spend on it. It's basically to help and to say, look, we've done it and we want to bolster the third sector so that everyone can have this elastic capacity and compete against the big guys.
Okay, now which bit are you going to put the jacuzzi in?
I'm going to put the jacuzzi right there.
Terrific, you're going to have to clean up a bit first.
I know, absolutely.
Thanks very much, Al.
Thanks very much, cheers.